Robots are coming for our jobs in podcasting. Well, at least my job in podcasting. Actually, though, only some of my job in podcasting. But here's why that's a good thing. Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. This is the 8th edition of my 10-part miniseries on the future of podcasting. And today we're going to take on that most dystopian of worlds, which has come true for so many people, and that is robots taking over your job. Automation taking over jobs. It happens. It's happening in podcasting as well. And again, I say that is a good thing. To podcast today, you need to be two things, at least. You need to be a lot of things, but two things really, if you break it down. You need to be creative, because this is a creative medium. We are creating content, so you need a creative side to yourself, which we all have in different degrees. And the second thing you need is to be technical, to know the ins and the outs of how things work on the back end. Those are the two primary skills you need to have a podcast. And right now, I'm already seeing a lot of those technical bits, those technical pieces, be given over to the bits. Because for technical things, oftentimes automation, robots, processes, software, that's much better. Software is eating the world. And if you haven't heard that phrase before, that's okay. But it is. Software is changing everything that we do. Ask taxi drivers how software has changed their lives. Ask journalists how software has changed their lives. Ask every industry how software has changed their lives. Same thing's happening in podcasting. Same thing is happening in podcasting. Software is going to eat podcasting as well. And it already does. It already does for a lot of things. Podcasting has changed drastically in 15 years. It's a lot easier to do so now. But as you know, the focus of this particular program is how do we make podcasting better, not just easier. And I think automation does that. The highlight of this whole thing is I think there are things involved with the podcasting process we should better leave to automation and never have to think about it again. Not just so that we don't have to think about those things, but specifically so that we can think about other things, like being more creative. Yeah. Imagine what you could get done if you didn't have to worry about all the little technical pieces. Now, maybe you wouldn't do anything, and I think a lot of people wouldn't do any more. But there are certain things that I think they would focus in on instead. And I really think it all centers around being more creative, spending more time in the creative process. Now, when I began this, I said that robots are taking my job specifically. And that's true. And I'm very okay with that. I'm okay with that for two reasons. One, I know that automation is the way things go. And two, it's not the stuff I want to be doing anyhow, to be really honest with you. All of my clients contract with my firm because we make this process simpler. We get rid of all the technical hurdles that they don't want to have to think about, that you've probably mastered, and they probably could master, but it just takes work to master all of these things. And I'm talking about what bit rate should I encode at? How exactly do I get the ID3 tags in the right way? What's the image size I should place up there? How do we know to make sure that the RSS feed is valid everywhere? And all of those things. And a whole lot more of those things are all the technical questions that people get to. You guys don't understand the number of people out there who have recorded content. It's sitting on a hard drive. They've figured out how to use Audacity, GarageBand, or something else to get an episode together, but they have no idea what to do next. How do I get it uploaded to iTunes, they say. And yeah, we might think that's a question that is, well, it's not a good question, obviously, but that's because they don't know. But that's getting a whole lot faster and easier. We now have podcast hosting companies, not just one, but several, that will do all of this work for them. That's the direction the industry is going, which is why I say it will put a lot of people out of a job. Because we're doing things that are going to be easily automated away. And again, I'm okay with that because the less I have to worry about when it comes to encoding and LUFS and how do we get the files to here and there, the less I have to actually do that with my brain, and the more I can turn that over to a robot, the more I can focus in on the strategic aspects of helping my clients make sure they're successful in podcasting. Same goes for you. Now, this is already happening. Right now on the market, there are software options that didn't exist before that will take care of a fair amount of the work that I do. It's still a little clunky to plug in right now, but that's okay. It's early. But once they get that whole process streamlined, then yeah, it's going to change things. And again, that's good. That's good. So I'm happy that there are software companies out there that are trying to overwrite all of this manual stuff that we do technically, because we shouldn't have to be making those decisions. What I'm even more excited about are those that are helping in with the creative process. Yeah, people who are writing software that will make it easier to be creative. Now, this is tricky. This is really tricky because I don't think robots are generally that great at figuring out what emotional connections people will have with a piece of content. So we're not quite there yet. But why isn't a robot figuring out what the best possible type of music to play based on the words and the tone and the style it can identify? Can it help you figure out what the right music is for a bit? Maybe it can figure out the best way, what's the right way to fade out some music on the background? What's the right volume level to have for that music? So these things are happening in various degrees today. So imagine that to the next level, where software comes along that looks at your script and says, right now it's saying passive voice, but here's a way to make that even better. Here's a way to make it more impactful. Couldn't robots do that? I've seen it. I've seen it happening in the writing world where robots are improving scripts. For podcasting as well. Again, that doesn't necessarily put people out of a job, but think of how much better you could be creatively if you had a guiding hand helping you do that. I fully expect within the next 10 years or so, it's always within the next 10 years, you know that we'll have fully automated podcasts. Somebody will type in a topic, or maybe even forget that, the software's smart enough to go look at Google Trends and see what's moving and create episodes based on that. It happens in the book world today. It'll happen in the podcasting world too. Don't be afraid of that dystopian future. It's possible, but I don't think it's going to knock everybody out. I think that this coming wave of robots and automation will ultimately make it easier, not easier. Yes, it will. It'll make it easier to make a better episode of your podcast if we just let it. And that's going to be great. All those extra little things that you have to think about now, you no longer have to use your brain power on that because there are bits looking out for it. That's kind of exciting to me. Tell me about your automation fears or success stories or what you're looking forward to. You can comment right here. I'll see it. Or you can go to flick.group/podcast pontifications and download the free app where lots of people, a few dozen, are chatting about episodes and other things that keep their interest. If you like the show and the content and you want to buy me a coffee because you feel bad that I'm going to be losing my job to a robot, buymeacoffee.com/evoterra. And finally, if you are in business and you need a podcast pro in your back pocket thinking about strategically how you can leverage the coming automation of your podcast, get in touch with me, evo@podcastlaunch.pro. Go to podcastlaunch.pro to see a list of all the services I offer clients all around the world. Enjoy your weekend. I shall be back on Monday with yet another Podcast Pontifications. Cheers.